All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. This is Table Tennis Chats. Mark Tanner, your host, I guess. Today we're with very special guest Liam McTiernan, and he's just been the brand new news. I say it's old news now. I guess it's been a few weeks, but been elected to the Table Tennis England board. So I guess Liam, we'll probably start on that to see how that came about in the first place.
Yeah, sounds good. Nice, thanks for having me on, Mark. Really appreciate it, and glad to extend our relationship to continue to speak about topics like this. It's funny you say old news because actually, technically, I start on the 12th, so on Monday. Monday's the official start date, so that's good fun. And I guess for those that don't know me, my name's Liam McTiernan. I've been involved with table tennis for 20 years now, which seems like a long time saying it. And that was all through originally being grassroots, so starting in a church hall in Reading, where I'm from, with Our Lady of Peace, and then moving to Kingfisher, which is sort of the more famous table tennis club from Reading, where they offer any members to play for 24 hours a day. So it's complete access, and then obviously going through the sort of junior rankings, the junior competition structure, and the performance program, and then being fortunate enough to be in the top sort of five ranked and international player at juniors, to then go on and play in the senior game, which I have done for the last 10 years, and originally also going to Nottingham University, setting up that University of Nottingham Table Tennis Club, to having experience, a good experience setting up that and running a club. And then in more recent years, just being actually more involved with Table Tennis England as an organisation, sitting on originally the members advisory group, supporting the board on some of the key topics there, and also being part of the competitions committee more recently on sort of some of the big reform there in competition. But then at the same time, continuing to play senior British League, for London Academy, and then this year for Urban. So continue to get my hand in, and being a regular player on the circuit. And I guess back to your original question around how did it come about? Well, as I mentioned, I guess for at least 5 years now, I've had an appetite to use all my experience and all my network and relationships, including with the likes of yourselves and the leagues and clubs, to really input and feedback to Table Tennis England, and provide that bridge, obviously, between the membership and the Table Tennis England staff and the board. But in the last couple of years, having done that, I've had an appetite to get closer and closer to that decision making. So when I saw that there was an opportunity to go onto the board, and especially in an elected position whereby you're working the most closely with the membership and making sure that their voice and needs are heard, I thought that it would just be a brilliant opportunity to work with some fellow players, coaches, colleagues that are on the board as well. So the likes of Richie Venner, and Don Parker, and yeah, put my hat in the ring and be a ambassador for the sport, but obviously for the membership as well, on that board, around that board table.
Fantastic, yeah, and also bring, I guess, a more youthful energy. Although you said it was 20 years in the game, but yeah, it's a more youthful touch to the board membership makeup, so that's great as well. Because obviously we started talking, I think it was during COVID when everyone had to chat online and had to sort of reach out and talk about table tennis more. And yeah, we're very fortunate enough for when you were in the area, you actually came down to our club, which was phenomenal. There's actually a video of you taking it very easy against me. But yeah, hopefully if we play again, it shouldn't be 8 points before I get one. But yeah, no, I mean, I think COVID actually, for it's maybe a bad word online now, but it was a kind of good platform to get people talking and speaking more about the sport. There was a lot of chatter at the time, little little splinter groups, if you like, of people wanting to make change, but maybe not knowing the direction to go down. So I guess having these elected members, that was one of the key things in my notes.
Yeah,
Gives the membership a voice, and so if they do have those concerns, you can approach the suitable candidates. So yeah, any sort of thoughts
definitely.
around that?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think, but look, at the end of the day, I especially the elected members as well. But we're just, we're players, we're coaches, we're running clubs just like everyone else that plays table tennis. I think that puts us in quite a unique position whereby, even us having this chat now, and like you said, me visiting the club during those COVID times, I mean, we are literally representatives of the membership. We're not, obviously other board members, and rightly so, for skill set diversity, have come from other sports, and there's things that from other sports or other walks in life, from other companies that they work at, they can add a lot of value to the sport and from that extra perspective. But I think ultimately, being from the same membership as everybody involved, from the likes of yourself and anyone else that's running clubs, it gives us that level of empathy as an elected director to bank all the experience that we've had and keep on tapping in to that rich pool of knowledge, and ultimately, fill a lot of gaps that are otherwise maybe blind spots for those that are coming with a more recent admission to the sport and to the organisation. And it's funny you say 20 years, or I've said I've been involved with 20 years. And if you said that at a company, I've been working at a company for 20 years, that is a very long time. But given that we can start the sport at the age of, in my case, 10 years old, saying you've been involved with the sport for 20 years doesn't actually add up to as high a number as working in a corporate. And I mean, at the same time, I think, I myself, with some of my experience working as the head of commercial strategy for Virgin Media 02, but also having been involved with table tennis for such a long time, will hopefully also put me in a good position to understanding all the sort of commercial and business aspects that there is with running a big organisation and a governing body, as well as ensuring that the focus is in the right direction for everyone that's involved in the sport.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm just on local level. I take inspiration from a couple of different sports actually. So the football club mentality for the actual clubness. I'm going to make up a new word there. But for the identity and the banter that associates being part of a team, even though it's a very individual sport, it's very lonely when you're at one end of the table to the other. And you may be losing, or you maybe having trouble with a serve. That you've got your teammates in and around you to help you out afterwards, or during breaks in play, etc. Also, then I do my pricing based on swimming. Look at the price of a swimming, session in the pool, be it sort of 50 minutes, is about £7 at the moment, around my area anyway. Basing it just slightly lower than that, and that was advice given to me by a karate club based in North Bristol. So kind of pooling from our sort of way we run it was from a badminton club based in Bath. So they had this little suitcase, you pull it out and you've got a little board with pegs on it, and they used to put the pegs up to the different tables. So I took inspiration from that and tailored it to what we're doing down here in Keynsham. But definitely drawn different skill sets, even in the very minor sense. But no, it's great. I mean, I've been reading in and around. You immediately went on to social media, be it different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, etc., to spread the message that you are on the board, you're ready. Here's my details, here's my contact details. Get in touch, let's make a change. You focus that around three main things. So, young players or younger players, competitions, and grassroots. So I think we could probably touch on all of them now. So I mean, younger players,
definitely.
It's been kind of a dropout at the age of university age, I guess, so at 18 or so. And I just wondered what your thoughts were in and around that, because obviously me and you have stayed in the sport for forever and a day, or at least 20 plus years for me anyway. What's your thoughts in and around those sorts of bits?
Yeah, I think, look, just as you said it there, I did some analysis table tennis England a few years ago, and I think it was as vast as 60 to 80% of people who were playing at 18 and then not playing at 25. And that is, a really unfortunate and such a drastic impact. Having spent most of my career, well, actually half of my career now, playing in the junior game, but having come up it through all the different competition structures, everything from your local Reading closed to 1 stars, 2 stars, 4 stars, national championships, and actually going through again the performance pathway. I think there's first of all a lot of learnings having come through that journey firsthand that I believe can be discussion points to be improved or optimized. I think the performance structure, as an example, for those key players that are trying to represent their country, trying to get to the best of their ability. Some key points there are around ensuring that they have access to other similar level players in their areas, whether that be the regional structure or county structure, to ensure that they're improving, and be given the right opportunities as much as they can. Again, I think that clubs are really, really necessary and important pillars in just getting people into the sport and getting, importantly, kids into the sport, engaged in the sport, really enjoying it, and then facilitating that movement into the competition structure. But then, I think more fundamentally on the youth front and the sort of younger side, there's many governance forums. There's many committees, all focused around generally. You got one for clubs, one for competitions, one for like rankings, and then obviously the veterans and the vets organisation itself has a lot of attention, a lot of good support. There's nothing really there to enable the two-way engagement between juniors and under 21s and those sort of in that age group between 18 to 25, and the organisation that's there to obviously has the ability to put in decisions and make investment choices, to obviously change the direction of some of those things. So I think one of the big focuses for me is just ensuring that I can use my network, I can use my relationships, and people like yourself and people that have clubs and they're engaged with juniors to collate all of that good knowledge and make sure that it's fed back and make sure that there's an iterative process to really have one of the best junior and youth programs in the country at all levels, whether that be performance and grassroots. But I mean, ultimately, that two-way communication for the youth point is really, really important, and one that I think is a little bit of a gap right now.
That's great. No, that's really insightful actually, because I mean, down here in the West Country, as farmers, we're very isolated. There's only Bristol as the biggest city, then we obviously Plymouth and a few others. But a lot of our players. So I met a guy. He was his birthday actually the other day. He was turned 14, and he's highly ranked in Bristol. So Bristol Division 1 for a 14-year-old kid is brilliant, to be fair. And he's from Stroud, and up in Stroud there aren't many players of his age that are of his level. So he's having to travel miles to come and get decent practice against players that are going to improve him. So he was a really pleasant kid. As much as he likes knocking with his mates or with club players, if they're not at a level of his standard or better, he struggles. But one of the things put in place already by Table Tennis England, which is great to see, is the start of regional development programs for the talented kids. So Andrew and Amanda have worked really hard on that from Table Tennis England. So that's seemed to benefit, especially a couple of players from our club actually, Josh Branch and a few others have gone along to that, which has been great. But no, I think also picking up again on the youth front, one thing that at Cornwall Club, I had a chat with Craig the other week, sorry, and he said one thing they've done slightly differently is to have a special officer dedicated to parents. So I know we're talking about direct youth conversations, but also having that parent coordinator on a committee for a club seemed to me like a pretty good idea. So it's pretty good to see. And then in terms of competitions, I mean, I can't speak very widely on competition because I tend to just do the local stuff. But you mentioned that obviously there's different pathways for people to go to, be it your opens in your towns and cities through to 1-star, 2-star, 4-star, whatever it may be, tournaments. What's the sort of review or what's the outlook on that really?
Yeah, I think look, this is an interesting one. Obviously, I'm part of the competition committee, and there's been a big review of the competition structure, and I think rightly so, because there's some great competitions that currently run 100% in the calendar that have done for the last 5 or 10 years. And new competitions are constantly added to that calendar. And we're at a point now where there's so many great competitions, but all kind of separate and a little bit complex to navigate. So somebody, if you hold up the mirror to those that have been involved with table tennis, and again, rightly so, you may want to ask, if you were new to the sport, how are you meant to navigate, what a one star is, what a British league is, what a 4 star is, or a Grand Prix, all these different terminologies. I mean, where do you start? You run the risk of somebody being brand new to the sport and suddenly playing a Grand Prix and having someone like Chris Duran in their group. That may not be the best entrance to a new sport. So I think, some of the principles need to be agreed first, which have broadly been agreed. Ideally you'd want a competition structure that is consistent, and where it is very obvious that an entry level tournament is an entry level tournament and an elite tournament is that level. I think another really key point is incentives. You've got to incentivize people to play, and they've got to play and feel like they're coming away from investing their money, their time, their effort to going and traveling to one of these tournaments. Off the back of that, feeling like it was a good value for money, or they've had a good time and they've had a good experience. So therefore, as part of that, you need to have the right incentives, and it may not be the biggest prize money at a certain tournament. It may be, just creating the best sort of player experience, or having the right events, or having the right number of matches, or, ranking wise, ensuring that competitions are weighted correctly so that people are incentivized to go and spend their weekend doing that. And regardless of results or how things might have gone, they come away thinking that it was value add to them and their table tennis career. So, I think competitions is a hot topic, and there's lots to work with the membership on how to revamp that in the right way so that it is a step change, but at the same time it doesn't completely scribble out all of the great stuff and competitions that have been created, and almost just reframe them in a different manner that makes more sense.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, because I mean, again, being from sort of Bath Bristol area, we got access to some good venues and good players in and around here, which is fantastic. But even though I've been in the sport for many years, a little bit longer than you, I still wouldn't know where to point someone to go. Right, you've come to my club, Keynsham, you've knocked about, you've socialised. I can pop them into the league team and they play in league. That's great. But then if they say, "Oh, Mark, what's the next step? Where's the next level to go?" Personally, I wouldn't know where to send them. I know there's weekend competitions. They seem to me a little bit ad hoc. So yeah, maybe almost like I don't know, like a seasonal flow diagram, or a schedule of competitions that people can enter. Even just sent out to all the clubs that we can communicate it to our membership to say, right, guys, in Bristol on May the whatever, there's this competition. This is for this level, and then just have an advert program. So that's something that I feel maybe is lacking. Maybe I'm too old school in that sense, but yeah, even just at least that link where you can point and go in the right direction. I think that would be super useful. But
definitely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then finally, grassroots is your other talking point. So you mentioned very proudly Kingfisher and your journey through there. What have you learned from your experience going through? Obviously, it's going back a few years, but going through that system, and what sort of changes would you like to see? I guess.
Yeah, well, look, I think my own experience. So in Reading, you've got two main clubs. One, Kingfisher, which is very much an elite club. They produce however many national champions, however many Commonwealth and Olympians. They're like the likes of Matthew Syed. And then you've got another club called Our Lady of Peace, which is run out of a church hall, and it's much more of a local feel type of club. The Kingfisher one, as I said, every member gets a key. You can basically play 24/7. The Our Lady of Peace Church Club is much more Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays is when the sessions are. In my own experience, Kingfisher was 10 minutes away from where I lived. And when I was first getting into the sport, that was the first club I went to. Went in there, the coach at the time, the first thing that happened when I went into the club was 100 balls multi-ball, right? So just walk in, 100 balls multi-ball straight away. The next one, 100 balls multi-ball on the backhand. Cool. Didn't 100% feel like that was the best environment to walk into. And the next day, we go and explore another club, Our Lady of Peace, the grassroots club. Everybody's playing top table. Everybody's playing with each other, completely different experience. Everybody's not taking it completely seriously. It's far more social. There's doubles going on. As I said, there's top table. Everybody's just having slightly more fun, and nothing's as structured. But, as a new young kid coming into the sport, that's the place that you want to spend most of your time. So I really enjoyed that environment, and playing in that club for then 6 months, 2 years, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then getting to a level where you can make that next step into a more professional club, I think is almost like a necessary requirement. So talking about grassroots and talking about how Table Tennis England can have as impactful involvement in the structure, I think every club comes in different shapes and sizes, and they're as important as each other. And I think that isn't always recognised by everybody. So the grassroots clubs, the ones that are operating out of church halls or local venues where there is restriction on access and that kind of thing, it's really important that they are supported to the absolute max by the governing body and being given, as you said, like a regional contact or an array of information for how they can thrive as a local club with certain objectives around engagement and participation. And then there's a completely whole different set of priorities for those more professional type clubs, like the likes of Kingfisher, for how do you give them the tools to be able to grow talent to ensure that young players or older players are maximising their own ability and potential and potentially playing national, international for England, and both of those are really important. And fundamentally, what goes over the top is the governing body supporting those clubs to be self-sufficient and to continuously engage players and build players, going forward. And I think the last thing I'll mention on both of these is both of those are solutions for once players have actually gone into a club at grassroots level. Ultimately, the root cause of how we get more people interested in table tennis and get them into the funnel is a massive, massive priority that I would love, a lot of attention to be on in the next couple of years. And I think there's two main things that can drive more people into our sport at grassroots level. One is visibility of the sport, so getting a higher profile for table tennis in the UK, whether that be through broadcasting, whether that be through schools, whether that be through, as I mentioned, TV, just ensuring that table tennis is visible as a very good alternative sport to those really popular ones that kids are making decisions on at that age. Is it football? Is it rugby? Is it cricket? Actually having viable alternatives to, is it tennis? Is it table tennis? Is it badminton? Ensuring that table tennis is front of mind, or at least in the consideration for people who want to start a sport. That's really important. And then the other thing that can foster that, but is important in its own right, is the funding. So with more funding, you can obviously do more broadcasting deals, you can do bigger competitions, you can potentially work with bigger partners. And at the moment, like a lot of governing bodies, a lot of funding, which you can see in the annual report for Table Tennis England, is, well, the two main funding routes are the membership and the government, so Sport England.
Yeah, Sport England, yeah.
And I think both of those need to be optimised, i.e. the funding needs to be used effectively. And for example, on the membership front, there's 300,000 people in the UK that apparently play table tennis, but the membership is only 30,000. So that's only a penetration of 10%. There's a big opportunity of getting more people officially involved with table tennis, and then driving up revenue to be able to be used to provide clubs or competitions with more funding and improve our structure. But then the other big one is external funding, right? And that is a big priority that I see right up there. If you look at, again, the annual reports for people like Manchester United, almost all of their revenue, something like 80%, comes from sponsorships and comes from commercial agreements outside of a publicly funded or member funded organisation. So if we're able to have a laser focus on funding and discretionary spend around, doing big commercial partner agreements or sponsorships with those that are interested in the sport and therefore can bring that level of funding for an exposure to our membership and to the sport in general, that would be a game changer, because then that would give a lot more funding available to invest in the sport and get people in and retain them.
Those are two cracking points, and points that are very interlinked, as you say. I mean, even at a smaller level, one thing that differentiates, what I'm trying to do here in Keynsham versus, be it an Oldfield or a Bear Flat club, both local clubs, is that we try and get everything optimized for sponsorship. So when we had junior coaching, it was sponsored by Keynsham Coffee Company. When we have the tables, Kitco sponsor one. I'm going to shout them all out now. Who else? Bristol Locksmith sponsor another, and one of my old companies, which I won't mention because I don't work for them anymore, but they did sponsor a table. So there's even opportunities like that for smaller clubs to get involved, and that kind of then the exposure is by getting on YouTube, getting on social media like we're doing right now, and talking, showing clips. I mean, today I just shared a little mock-up meme of Lionel Messi crying over listening to how you lost the game, in the final point. Stuff like that, just little tidbits like that to get table tennis out there. Then just going back to that point about grassroots and the kind of important factors of growing it, I came up obviously a bit more narrowed down into the grassroots bit with two things that I picked up recently. The first one is which Amanda muted to me when I last saw her, the Southwest rep. She said that it's important to make different towns and different areas like table tennis hubs. So again, going back to Keynsham, a little town down the road from me, we've got our club and it plays on a Thursday. It's great. However, we've got two senior schools there, which we don't go into currently. So, and they've got tables. So there's two different venues there not being utilised. We've got our league team in a church hall. So that's another direct link. Then we've also got a youth club who have now got a broken table. So we need to get some funding to help them out to get a table back in. So suddenly 5 venues have popped up all in like a 10-minute walking distance, which if it takes a lot of energy and it takes a committee, but if that can be driven then to make Keynsham, a small little market town of 20,000 people, a table tennis hub, then I think you got fireworks and you're going at that point. And then the second point that again, Craig down in Cornwall, St Austell's brought up to me was their biggest growth from going from 7 members to 100 odd members now. His biggest takeaway was getting out into the community. So again, small town, rural, isolated town. But what they did consistently were those 7 members formed their committee, then went out, took a table in the centre of town every single week without fail. Then gradually it started to snowball, compounding interest, it got a membership which is flooding. One question as well. We got about 10 minutes left, but you said about the differences between like your church hall venues and your social club venues playing local league versus the clubs that are bringing on elite players and bringing on the next generation of your Pitchfords and your Drinkles, which is great. You seemed very lucky to be in Reading to have that club open 24/7. In Bristol and nearest thing we've got is Ping Pod, that's opened up in North Bristol. That's open near enough 24/7, I think, with the technology they've got to allow players to come and play there. But apart from that, is it very commonplace across the country? How many clubs are open in like a 24/7 sort of thing? That's just a curious thing from me, really.
No, look, there's not many, right? And actually, when you look at, I mean, for anyone that's read Matthew Syed's book Bounce, he describes how something like 6 national champions of table tennis in the junior age category all lived on the same road in Reading, right? And it's weird. It's not like anyone's different from Reading than anywhere else in the country, but it shows the importance of access to the right facilities. And I think this, to be honest, unlocks a lot of deeper questions as to, for example, why we are not as good at table tennis as some of our European or Asian counterparts, right? And it all comes down to access. So, no, I think that there's a couple. I'm not even sure. I actually couldn't say 100% or name with 100% certainty that there was another 24/7 venue in the country. Part of that is down to security risk because at Kingfisher, every single member gets a key, so they can, open the door at any time. I understand that in other parts of the country, there may be more of a security risk to allowing all your members to do that. But regardless, I think even if it wasn't 24/7, having a venue that is almost exclusively yours and for your members to play whenever is really, really crucial. And I would love to see more of those types of clubs, at least dotted around major cities or major towns, and as many as possible. And Kingfisher was founded and revamped through a government or council applications, through the processes of working with the schools and the local council to try and get funding to build, a club. And when you've got that funding and when you can build a venue like that, and your costs are perhaps lower because you don't need to fund, rent and things like that for a venue, you've just got more. You can reduce the cost of the membership. You can invest in other things, and before you know it, you've really created one of those hubs. So I think if we can provide more support to clubs that have that level of ambition through the paperwork and through the difficulties of, starting it as an idea and seeing it execute, that would be, a really big change. And I think you'd see a lot of ramifications and knock-on effects from having more clubs like that.
It's exciting. Yeah, no, it's exciting to think on, definitely. And just, yeah, touching on Reading, do you watch the football over at Reading as well? Or?
No, unfortunately, I'm a West Ham fan.
Oh, okay,
so
there we
so it
go.
was tough growing up in Reading with a lot of friends that supported Reading, and they were, I think, West Ham's bogey team for a few years. But I still watch. I keep an eye open to see how they're doing, and I see that they've just finally changed management to a new owner, which will hopefully, ensure that Reading gets back up to where it should be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a big Bath City fan, so I was about to thank you for the loanees over the seasons. Like,
Yeah,
we had
exactly.
like Luke Southwood and Liam Kelly and Axel Anderson. He was brilliant. But yeah, no, that's funny. But yeah, in the final couple of minutes, so from a playing point of view, because you're still a player, we can't forget that you're not just a board member, you're a player. What are your hopes? We've just finished the winter season now. Going into next year, what are you looking to hope and achieve playing wise?
Well, I think it's an interesting one. So last year, I played for London Academy, and we won the Championship British League, which was great. The first time I've ever won that division, so it was a brilliant feeling, and it was a good experience. And playing alongside my friend Gabriel Achampong. This year, so they chose to go down a division to allow some of the London Academy school children to play. So this year, I played for Urban Table Tennis Club, again with a few friends. So Alim Herji, Matej Mikosh, some friends from university, and that was really good fun. But this year we were in a little bit of a relegation battle, actually, and it did come down to the last weekend, and we needed to get some good results. But if I'm completely honest with you, both of those, have been great because at least you're playing and fighting for something. So next year, I would like to be in a position where I'll play for Urban again, and we put out a strong enough team whereby we're maybe fighting, let's say, for a medal. It'd be good to be fighting for at least a silver medal in the British League Championship division. That will be my number one focus. I may decide to play maybe in the local league, maybe a few other competitions, especially if the structure gets finalised and we see potentially, rebranded, let's say, Grand Slams, table tennis Grand Slams or something like that. I would love to, perhaps participate more widely in that wider competition structure. And let's see what happens to the national championships and the qualifier for the national championships. Because if, again, there's changes there, or if it gets revamped, again, I may throw my hat in the ring for that as well.
Yeah, well, no, that's great. I'll look out. And again, another good thing that Table Tennis England have done over the last, particularly I'd say 12 months, is to actually highlight and put more clips of Senior British League on on all the major platforms, basically, which has been
They've really stepped up
superb.
their social media game. 100%. The visibility of the social media game, they completely stepped up on.
Exactly. No, it's been great to see. But no, thank you very much for your time today, Liam. Thanks for joining me. I know it's been a week or so. We'll be going back and forth at times. So yeah, appreciate
That's
that
all good.
today.
Thanks
Hope
very
you have
much.
a good
Anytime.
yeah, hope you have a good weekend
Anytime.
ahead. And
Yes,
yeah,
thank
welcome
you.
back whenever you're in the area. Please do come on by.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Cool. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Keep talking about table tennis. I know there's going to be a few comments down there. I'll do my best to reply to them, especially if you do run a table tennis club and maybe you've got some ideas as to things we've missed today. It's only been a quick half an hour one, or indeed, if you're a 24-hour club in England but we haven't shouted out, then please do get in touch. Make sure we do it.
Yeah,
Cheers.
100%. Thank you.
Bye bye.